Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be the Dark Elves led by Houseplant facing off against the forces of Tzeentch, who are going to be helmed by Berserk, here on one of our new maps. Hopefully you guys are ready to party. Certainly going to be a very fun, super high level match. These are two of our top players in the community, and let's see how this one goes. Now, for the forces of old Houseplant, if you took us back, I suppose, to the end of Warhammer 2, you might think this is a meme build with the MEDUSAs, but MEDUSAs are actually quite good now. They did get an adjustment, it was a couple of patches ago, I don't quite remember, but their anti-infantry capabilities are actually quite good. So if you're able to sit and shoot their laser beam eyes into like Tzeentch warriors, into these various demons, it does magic damage, and it hits surprisingly hard. And on top of that, worst case scenario, the MEDUSA causes terror, which isn't the most useful against demons, of course, but there still are quite a few mortals. We've got Tzeentch Chaos Knights, Chaos Warriors, whatever, and they have halberd attacks. So yeah, MEDUSAs are pretty cool on them, and that's a unit that I'm very, very happy is actually decent. The rest of the army for Houseplant is going to be more chaff-centric. We got Bleak Swords and Dread Spears, very standard kind of rank and file here, and the heavy hitters are going to be the two MEDUSAs, which are going to be there to shoot at the infantry. They can also do some counter-skirmishing, and another niche application of them is if your opponent does bring in the Mutalith Vortex Beast, which recently was nerfed and no longer has anti-large, the MEDUSAs can actually get in there with their halberds, and their anti-large bonus, which I believe is 15. Let's go ahead and double-check this. Wow, actually way bigger, 30. So they can pop in there and take down that BC with a little bit of support. We got a Supreme Sorceress of Dark, so yeah, very standard. This is the most meta choice. It's basically like a cheaper version of Malekith that has almost the exact same stat line. So this is the very meta way to play Dark Elves, is to use a Supreme Sorceress of Dark Magic. Probably the most common pick, followed up by, let's see, outside of that, I'm trying to think, maybe Malice Darkblade. Malice Darkblade does have some nice matchups for sure, but this is just such a raid boss to deal with all that healing. In the tree line, it is going to be some Dark Riders. Dark Riders are good here because your opponent is going to be bringing a lot of pinks and blues, so having a shielded unit that can dive and disrupt their formations, chase down the Marauder Horsemen, all of that is very useful. Now, for the forces of Berserk here on the other side, he's going to be rocking a Tzeentch Sorcerer of Metal on horseback, looking very, very cool. And just going to be spamming Searing Doom, basically. So Searing Doom and Plague of Rust. So Plague of Rust is a kind of a cool synergy with like Chaos Knights, Forsakens, Zangors, all of which do pretty good damage against things that are lightly armored. So popping a Plague of Rust before a Chaos Knight charges a Cold One Rider, for example, is going to make a world of difference. And Searing Doom is just great damage. It's a very underrated spell. You can drop this on archers, infantry lines, blobs, and it's going to get some good work done. Up in the sky, we have the Shrieking Skyrays. Shrieking Skyrays is a solid anti-large unit. And they do have that missile attack. I believe it's called Lamprey's Bite. Yes, so you can kind of aim this at lightly armored troops and it does good work. But the MEDUSA's force this thing back, and now you can see the power of the fully armed and operational MEDUSA station. So one shot takes down the shields right on these blues, which is awesome. And another shot is going to do some considerable damage, killing 6 models and chunking a lot of HP. So yeah, MEDUSA is really showing their worth here in the beginning. The rest of the Tzeentchian army is going to be Marauder Spears, mostly demon-centric, with the pinks and blues. So all the colors of the rainbow going to be coming up and yeah, having some fun. So as far as the objectives go, this is very much like an ITSA style map. We have objective 3, 2, and 1. And it looks like Tzeentch is going to be getting the initial grab on the objectives, so we can do a little bit of fast forwarding while the two armies posture. And Houseplant's going to be preparing his forces in the tree line and looking to push out and overwhelm the Tzeentchian army, potentially using like most of his force to overwhelm one position, while the rest of the Tzeentch forces are more spread out, right? Because you can see a lot of the Tzeentch army is here on this objective, whereas the entire Dark Elf army is going to be collapsing out of the trees at once. So Tzeentch will have to kind of reallocate their forces, reposition, and move those guys up. But out of the gates, it is going to be a triple cap here, and we are going to be seeing Tzeentch getting their goodies. And the MEDUSAs, in the meantime, just running through the trees, absorbing, well, letting the trees absorb some of the shots. Yeah, they're such cool-looking models. And there they go, back into the tree line there. Dodging a fair amount of that pink fire, and as far as their missile resistance goes, it's certainly one of their weaknesses. They have relatively low armor, but you can see those shots not bad, able to get through the shields, not killing any models. But the Horns of War will be sounded here relatively soon. Chaos Knights of Tzeentch are going to come out, so we will see the Plague of Rust combo. These guys obviously do excellent damage against, and they can kill chaff units very well, like Bleak Swords, Dread Spears, even Corsairs, Witch Elves, Sisters of Slaughter. Will be a little bit more dangerous, but on the charge, they'll do huge damage against those units, and even in sustained combat, they're basically like Mounted Chosen. And the Tzeentch ones are especially awesome because of their shields, right? So you can charge in, fight a little bit, your opponent gets through your shields, you retreat, regenerate, come back. It's very, very powerful. Certainly more powerful in land battle since there's not like a dedicated time limit to the game like there is with objectives, but even here, I would say it's very good. Tzeentch is kind of more of a mid-tier faction in domination, whereas I think in land battle, Tzeentch is probably S-tier for sure. And Dark Elves are also, I would say, a really high-level faction in land battle as well. And they're more like average, middle of the road here in Dom. They get the job done. I mean, you see Houseplant picking them. This is from a really competitive tournament. Shout out to House Cat of War for hosting this tournament, and thanks for the replays as well. So breath attack there, a little bit of a miss there from old Houseplant. And man, those Tzeentch Knights, oh my god. They just obliterated those Dread Spears. You just like look and they just got flattened. Their source code was deleted from the game, it would appear. But the Dragon's going to be coming over, ripping through those Chaos Knights of Tzeentch, and also the Medusas were able to provide some supporting fire, and the Chaos Knights are going to be retreating back, trying to get their shields back online. In the meantime, the Dark Elf forces have emerged from the tree line. We see the Bleak Swords and Dread Spears moving in, and the Pinks and Blues are going to be forced back as the Druchii Infantry, with their murderous prowess, not active yet, of course, and it's just kind of a... yeah, I think it's a little ways. Yeah, we have some time. There certainly need to be a lot more kills, but the demons will start popping like popcorn, and that murderous prowess will be out before you know it. Really big power spike for sure. So Cold One Knights were in the tree line here, and they are going to be countercharging the Chaos Knights, so this is not a good engagement for Berserk for sure. He's going to want to get these Chaos Knights and probably retreat through his own ranks, because here they're just going to take such a catastrophic trade here against Cold One Knights. Granted, he does use the Maelstrom of Change, as well as Plague of Rust. All right, very cool. So, it's Aeson the Fallen. Wow, you never see that guy. Or a mutation, gift of mutation, and he does have the Maelstrom of Change ability. Okay, so it's like a ranged damage spell. Wow, that's a first. Well, I'm taking notes, man. So Aeson does get in there, and the Chaos Knights of Tzeentch are able to endure, which is very impressive. But you can see this guy does have a bonus versus infantry, not a bonus versus large. And as far as the rest of the forces go, the hordes of the Druchii are going to be advancing on the popcorn position. So the Blues and Pinks, the Cotton Candy Bandits, are going to be trying to hold, but that's a lot of, relatively cost-effective shielded infantry. And the Druchii chaff units, pretty good stats. Low HP, but overall their killing power is quite good, 36 and 32. And they are pushing back the demonic units, while there is going to be a nice flank coming in from Houseplant. So it looks like he did call in some Corsairs right here. And the Corsairs are going to be drawing their dual blades, and they will be ripping through these little popcorn bandits, and probably is going to be the end of these guys. Now over here, a little bit more heavier fighting. It does look like the Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch was trying to take down the Medusa and did some respectable damage, but now Big Daddy's here, I guess Big Mama. It's going to be the Supreme Sorceress of Dark Magic, and there is going to be a Soul Stealer. Very dangerous position for Tzeentch. We could be seeing the Chaos Sorcerer here potentially get killed, but he does summon some Chaos Spawn using his Staff of Change there, so that is going to buy him a little bit of time, as the Spawn do have good mass, and they can be used to block the Supreme Sorceress from pursuing him, and he is able to slip away. Very, very good play. This is a great game, by the way. And Aeson the Fallen, even though he is kind of vulnerable against halberd attacks, is going to be able to defeat the Medusa. The Medusa was very damaged at this point, and yeah, this thing is a pretty good fighter as well. It has 64 melee attack, 50 melee defense. It's like almost 2,500 gold, right? I think it's around that range. And it looks like the Medusa is going to get crushed by Aeson the Fallen. Very cool to see the big ROR going. Uh-oh, she's getting up. She's going to try and make a run for it, but yeah, I suspect that one more attack will get the job done. Yep, down goes the Medusa, ladies and gentlemen. The other one does stand firm. Now, looking at the objectives, we do see Objective 2 in the clutches of Tzeentch, and Objective 3 in the clutches of Tzeentch as well. Houseplant, though, with his value lead, is going to be calling in some reserves down here, and obviously the Corsair Infantry will absolutely dominate against the Marauders of Tzeentch with spears. And the middle objective is it's close. It could go either way, but I do think it's inevitably going to go to Houseplant here. The Blackheart Corsairs will rip through these Blues. We do have some Spear Boys here, and the monster fight, yeah, one Medusa did go down. The Supreme Sorceress, though, does get a Soul Stealer off, and it is able to hit these Chaos Knights. And, man, I love the Plague of Rust, though. That makes them so squishy, because their melee defense isn't very good. They're very reliant on their armor, right? They only have 28 MD, so getting put down to 30 armor, I mean, these Chaos Knights, wow, look at how dominant this fight is. Now Aeson the Fallen's going to be coming in, and the value could start to swing back for Tzeentch a little bit. They've had a couple favorable little engagements here, as the Searing Doom does get dropped, and the Tzeentch Chaos Knights dominate that fight, and are going to continue moving through the Druchii ranks. In response to this new threat, Houseplant is going to be calling in every time I say in response, it makes me think of blue players in Magic, in response. But the Dark Riders with the Repeater Crossbow is going to be rolling up and shooting at those Chaos Knights, which is a very good answer. They're faster, maneuverable, good AP. Druchii do have a fair amount of infantry, though, that are in good shape. They got the Corsairs here, they got the Spears, and you can see Houseplant is going to be maneuvering those Dark Riders to just make sure to follow Aeson here, and he could be in a little bit of trouble. Of course, the Dragon is a very scary fighter. Currently disoriented. Oh, that's really cool. So he's got the disoriented aura as well. So it does lower the speed, allowing him to kind of weasel away here. And the Shrieking Skyray is being called in from Berserk. Or not called in, but rerouted here to protect Aeson the Fallen. And the Dragon character is taking a little bit of a beating, but it probably has another Soul Stealer, which would likely will be getting popped here. Might actually be able to finish off these Shrieking Skyrays. And the Sorcerer Lord is in a little bit of danger himself. Now, as far as the objectives go, it looks like this one is going to be remaining in the clutches of the Druchii, as the Crows of Cain do arrive there and deal with that. In the backfield, Chaos Knights trying to shut down the Dark Rider Repeater Crossbows, but some basic Dark Riders move in, and sure, they'll get crushed by Chaos Knights really, really bad in combat, but you could just throw them in. It's just like in Tabletop. If you guys have played the old world, it's quite nice. You could just kind of throw those cheap cavalry units like Cabin as a screen. Now the Dark Riders are going to be able to turn about face and begin ripping shots once again. Up in the sky, we do see the Plague of Rust Boys used on the Big Dragon character, but man, those Soul Stealers are just so cost effective. You know, I miss the days of Malekith. And then they just like arbitrarily like nerfed him and gave him the exact same stat line as this character with for the same cost. It's pretty ridiculous. But hopefully that'll be something that gets fixed someday. Dark Riders shooting into Aeson the Fallen, and here there's going to be a Searing Doom going down. So Searing Doom once again will tear through the Druchii forces. On the low ground, to no surprise, the Blackheart Corsair showing why they're a very cost-effective infantry unit. They win that objective. And the high ground's also owned by the Druchii as well. We do see a really massive points lead for the forces of the Dark Elves as well. And there's a lot of healing on that roster. Not healing on the roster, but healing on the dragon is what I meant to say. And it looks like there's even going to be another Soul Stealer. Jeez, man, he got a lot of those. That one's going to be a fat one on Aeson the Fallen here. And yeah, he's going to go into the old trash can. He's going to go down to like 1500 HP. Certainly not having a great time. Dragon character will probably win that. And meanwhile, over here, we do see the Dark Riders swarming the position. The last Medusa is still fighting. I don't know about the value. Got about 1,000. Not bad. Looks like Houseplant sent it in melee. Could have had it back here shooting or whatever, but obviously he's microing very fervently in other areas. So nice Searing Doom. You can see the power of the Lord Metal, right? Pretty much one-shots the Dark Rider unit, and he's up to about 1,500 value so far. More Dark Riders with the repeater crossbows are going to be in to try and snipe this Lord and finish off these Tzeentchian units, maybe maintain the objective for the Dark Elves. But in the middle, it's going to be going to the Druchii. We see the Mutalith Vortex Beast on the run. Meanwhile, the Blackheart Corsairs able to push up on that point very, very well. And yeah, probably going to be, even though the points is like very, very massively in Berserk's favor, with his Lord getting karate chopped here, the Mutalith Beast is offline, the Dragon character, Druchii are basically going to have two objectives and have a long time to fight for this one, because Tzeentch would need to hold this objective for a long time, getting one victory ticket per second, right? So I don't think it's going to go down like that. So probably I would expect a GG from Berserk here. We do see some Zangors moving up in the point, but the repeater crossbow is going to be blasting him into the Shadow Realm. Dragon character heading up here to deal with it. Middle is going to be flipping to the forces of the Dark Elves, as the Blackheart Corsairs got their clutches on this one. And what are the Collins going to be next? So we got more repeater crossbow cavalry. Going to be pretty good against Zangors. Zangors, of course, do have silver shields, but if you can shoot them in the back and have them surrounded, shoot them in the side, their shields aren't really going to be terribly helpful for them, and they will take some massive casualties, but that's got to be it, right? Houseplant's got the middle objective. Bottom objective is, lightly contested by Tzeentch, but a single Dark Rider unit could kill Aeson and also take down these spears here. They're very, very tattered, so I suspect there's going to be a Dark Rider call out here relatively soon. About a 4,000 or 5,000 value lead, but it ended up being a pretty close game. I mean, you could see Berserk, if the trades had been slightly better, as far as the army fighting goes, he could have been, closing it out on points for sure, but that was not the case. So Forsaken are arriving here, as well as some Marauder Horsemen. Dark Riders in the bushes. I think they've been kind of forgotten about. I would imagine he's probably out of Soul Stealers at this point. Here comes the Dark Rider unit, going to be cruising for a bruising. Collins for Tzeentch are going to be some horsemen, and it looks like the Tzeentch Sorcerer Lord is going to be retreating off the battlefield. So farewell, Sweet Prince. That's going to be very unfortunate for Tzeentch, and that's probably going to be the catalyst that makes Berserk leave, because that's going to be a big leadership penalty on his army of -16. So a lot of his units that are kind of barely holding on in these various areas are really going to start suffering. So middle point still in the clutches of Tzeentch. I mean, they are eclipsing 1,200 points. Is there any sort of witchcraft that could happen? I mean, Berserk is a top-tier player. He's extremely good. So, him and Houseplant have certainly had some games going back and forth. So if anyone could come back, it'd be him. But I just don't think it's going to be possible with the Dragon. We have the double cap here. Dark Riders managed to arrive to that objective. We get more Druchii infantry being called in, so Dread Spears and Dread Spears. And Crows of Cain just chasing down horsemen wherever they can. And Tzeentch basically just has a couple Haggard infantry on the battlefield now. Dread Spears, probably at this point, with his health, could probably beat the Zangors. They have pretty good melee defense at 42, and that is going to be a tap out. GG, well played. Super high level match between those guys. We got to see Medusas, the ROR Mutalith Beast. A lot of really fun stuff. That was a cool game. So GG, well played to both those players. Big carry is the Dragon, right? It's always kind of been like that for Dark Elves. Soul Stealer Dragons are just such a carry for the roster. They do so incredibly well. I'm trying to think, you could have similar success with Malice. Malice could really bully the Tzeentch Lord, also deal with the Chaos Knights pretty effectively. Chaos Knights getting 600 values, not great. 1,300 on this one. Aeson did great at 2,700, but that's like just barely paying for himself, right? So nothing in the Tzeentch roster did like extremely well. They did good, a lot of these little bandits, but overall it was not their day. Dragon was a raid boss, and I would imagine some of the Cold One Knights maybe did good. Repeater Crossbow Cavalry didn't reach 1,000. Cold One Knights, yeah. Really just the Dragon and the Medusas, I suppose, doing a little bit. Although this Medusa only got 400, so yeah. I guess just the Dragon. GG, well played. See you guys later. Awesome game by these two champs. And we'll see you guys on the other side.